I am so excited today to be having a conversation with my friend and fellow mastermind sister, Gayle Nowak. She says that when you dare to listen to your wounded heart, you begin to heal and free yourself from the pain, fear, and false beliefs keeping you stuck in your business. Gayle is a transformational retreat leader and founder of the Story Stylist, an award-winning expert positioning consultancy for speakers, authors, and mission-led entrepreneurs. Welcome to Beautifully Bloomed, the podcast where we explore how to break you out of the box of rules and beliefs that are holding you back from the life you are meant to live. I'm your host, Rebecca Turvo. Join me as I share mindset tools, coaching conversations, and human design to help you uncover your unique gifts and create the life, relationships, and business you desire. So welcome, Gayle. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Yay.
Woohoo. Go manifesting generators.
That's right.
First of all, before we get started, I just wanted to talk about how we know each other. Like, when did we meet? When was the first time you remember us meeting?
So we met, I think it's been a year or maybe just over a year. So we're in the Sourced Experience Mastery group, and we've been on that journey together for the last year.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun and really deep.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, being part of that group and getting to know you, getting to know our other Source sisters, it's been a really interesting experience because I feel like we're creating these new connections in adulthood that I think are going to carry on long after this program is over, which it's starting to wrap up this month. So I'm really excited that you and I have been able to connect within that group, but also outside of that group too, and start talking about collaborating together. And, you and I did a mind shift session together, which was really cool. It's just been really great getting to know you over the last year.
I know. I remember at the beginning wondering who you were because you didn't have your Facebook, like your Facebook name isn't your name.
That's right.
And so I kept forgetting your name. I'm like, wait, what was her name again? Like, because it was so, like, I felt a little bit disconnected, right? Like there was a couple people I clicked with right away and you weren't one of those people. Right. And I kind of felt a little bit distant. And then when we did connect, we found out like we can click really well. And I just love when that happens. Like, it's like this delightful new friendship or something.
Right? I know. And it's so funny because I had gotten off of Facebook before this program, but of course, a lot of people use Facebook for the group forums. And I had this just random pseudonym that I made up. So it totally makes sense that you would be like, wait, who are you?
Yeah. It just threw me off. It was like, what, Scarlett? Why do you know? You know what I mean? I just couldn't figure it out, but I'm like, I totally get it. Like some people literally just get off Facebook. I'm like, I'm just not there yet, but there's some useful things about it. But so Starla's group. And I just love the connection all of us have made. And we've talked about like doing retreats together or even actually doing working retreats together, not leading retreats together, but just even getting together as a group afterwards. Like, I love all the thoughts of that and how we can form such deep connections in these containers.
Absolutely.
So I love about coaching containers. And you and I both work as coaches, right? We lead containers. And I feel like that's why they're so important to be part of and have other people be part of them, because they help us with transformation. They help us with deeper understanding of ourselves. And it's just been an amazing experience, really.
Yeah, it really has. And you're right. I mean, there's something about being able to be with, whether it's you and your coach or you and your coaching group, there's just something about being in that kind of container where you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel validated to help you, once you've made that commitment to transformation, to really help you through that journey, because it is a journey. No doubt about it. It's a journey. And that's part of what we've been doing together too, is right. Having going through our own transformations, and then also learning how to hold the container for our clients to have those transformations. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah, it's just another way to get in touch with our inner voice, right? I feel like that's what we've been working on this year. It's how do you get in touch with your like inner voice, and how do you allow that to help transform with your clients too, right? And how do you build your business according to what you really want, not what someone else said you should have? So it's just such a foreign concept for me, even a couple of years ago. Oh, what do I want? Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, me too. And not just in business, in all
anything.
aspects.
Yes. Yeah, all aspects. So I'm curious, like, where did your journey begin into becoming because I know you've had this background of being a marketer somehow. Well, tell us what that story is. Like, you were a marketer, now are you a coach? What is that about?
Yeah. So my professional background, I started out as a journalist, and then I ended up in the marketing department of an engineering firm. And then I went to a PR and advertising agency, and I was a PR executive. So and even before my professional career started, I had been working for newspapers as a freelancer in high school and in college. So words were kind of my thing.
Yeah.
From a very from a very early age. Pretty much, I think I showed up on this planet as a born communicator. I'm a Gemini, so
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Gemini. Yes.
I remember we talked about that. Yeah.
Two
So
Geminis. Wow.
two
Manifesting
Geminis.
generators. Wait, well, hopefully this isn't like going to take 2 hours to get through a conversation, right?
I know, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so that was my professional background. And I had actually been working at my dream job, the PR agency, for about 7 or 8 years. And, I know that there's a lot of people who have a very different story about being in corporate, and it was soul sucking. And I had that experience in the news industry, but I was actually in my dream job. I was working at this boutique PR and ad agency. My bosses were amazing. My coworkers were amazing. We worked out of their mansion on the ocean. They
wow.
took us. Yeah,
that
it was
sounds
incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
They took us on all these like really great trips, and we stayed at the best hotels when we traveled for work, and they brought us to nice restaurants. I mean, it was amazing. And I realized that although I was in my dream job, I actually wasn't going after my dream, which was to have my own business. And I had known since college that I wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what that was going to be. And now that I know my human design, that actually makes a lot more sense to me, because I think what I needed to have happen was to go out and experience the world and have some experiences and try some things on before I could actually figure out what I wanted to focus on in my business. And that's exactly what I did. That line, I think that's the
line 3, right?
Oh, line 3. Yeah.
Yeah. That line 3 energy of, hey, let's go try it out. Let's try some things out, see what works. Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in 2013, I left my dream job. I started my business, and I was focusing on story in particular for coaches, consultants, healers, because number one, I'd been in the business of stories my entire career as a journalist, and then also, as a marketer and pitching stories to the media. So it was still stories, but kind of the entrepreneurial piece was the different aspect of it. So yeah, that's how I got started. And then what happened is I realized a couple years into my business that I didn't quite get it then. Looking back at it now, and it was like my business became a mirror for my healing.
Oh, yes. That one of my other guests said, business is a healing. I don't remember how she put it, but it was something about business and healing. I'm like, oh, it totally makes sense.
Right. And I today, I very firmly believe that the business journey is a healing journey if you're open to that.
Yeah.
It will be a healing journey no matter what. It's just, are you going to go kicking and screaming, or are you actually going to take that journey? And so a couple of years into my business, I felt like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I wasn't really happy with my results.
Yeah.
I actually got clients right away. And, everybody, storytelling was really hot at that time. I mean, it still is, but it was really, really coming into being known and being really hot and really sexy. And so it was easy in the beginning for me to get clients. But then like a couple years in, what was going on is that I was really investing in getting my business off the ground. And I had gone through $28,000 of my savings. And I had $14,000 of credit card debt.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out because I'm naturally a saver.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I also didn't realize, like, I didn't know then kind of what I know now about money and energy. And, it's called, money circulates. It's called circulation for a reason. Like money goes out, money comes in.
Yeah.
And so I was really in like this anxious, fearful place, which actually was a blessing in disguise, because what was going on is that even though I thought I was doing everything I should do to make my business work, my business wasn't working for me. And deep down, I knew that there actually was one thing I hadn't done. And it was also the one thing I didn't want to do.
Really? What is the one thing?
The one thing that I hadn't done and didn't want to do was to share my own personal story of why I wanted to help other entrepreneurs be seen and be visible and be heard.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, I was telling stories. Yeah. And I was trying on stories because I was kind of avoiding this other story that I knew I needed to tell, but I didn't quite get how it was relevant. And then there was this thing going on in my business that was like, okay, like I'm spending way more money than I'm making. Like,
yeah.
And it just got to this,
about? Right.
Yeah, what's that about? And it really wasn't until I started sharing this story about my sexual abuse as a child that I started to really understand that my clients were also navigating around silence, shame, and invisibility in their own business. And all of the pieces started to make sense. And this was like a huge piece of healing that was coming up for me, and transformation that was coming up for me through my business. And the really interesting thing, Rebecca, is that clients would come to me and they would share things, like really deep things with me. And they would say things like, I've never told anybody that before. So like, even though I wasn't talking about this stuff as openly, somehow they were connecting to the energetic of it, and they felt safe sharing it with me. And then they would feel like they would come out of our story sessions, like feeling so much better, so much lighter. And so like that healing piece was happening organically. But I was just all about like marketing and communication and your story and the strategy.
You were on the masculine side of
I was way on the masculine side.
Come on, guys.
I am a recovering overachiever, overfunctioner, like very much comfortable in my masculine energy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I decided to share this story because I was like, well, I haven't done, I don't know what else to do. So let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. But it was terrifying because I was really afraid that I might offend somebody. And it was like a lot of the old energetic from my childhood, because what had happened in my childhood is that I didn't tell anybody about it for a long time because I was afraid that that I was going to hurt people.
Yeah.
I was only a kid. I was afraid I was going to hurt people. I was afraid people were going to get in trouble. I was afraid of being taken away from my family.
Yeah. Totally.
And so there was this whole vibe of like telling the truth hurts.
Right.
And then when I finally did share that truth, all the things that I was worried about happening didn't happen at all. Like basically nothing happened at all. My family's response was to get me a phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting response. Yeah.
Yep. It is an interesting response. And then basically everything went back to as if I hadn't said anything at all.
Wow.
And yeah. Yeah. So for me at that time, because of that, the way I processed it was that my truth didn't matter.
Yeah.
My story didn't matter. And basically I didn't matter.
Yeah. And what else could you think? Right.
Yeah. Right. Like,
yeah.
Nobody's responding to this. Nobody's doing anything about this. So I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so fast forward 25 years, I had carried all of that pain, all of that energy, all of the defense mechanisms right into my business.
Of course. Yeah. You came up with a survival mode, right? It's like you learned this is how it works to keep me safe.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I really had to get comfortable with those uncomfortable parts of myself in order to even be able to tell this story. And the month before I shared it, the first time I came out with it, I shared it in an email campaign. I had made like $14 or something like that, which is a real kick in the gut because I had $0 months, but like there was something about this $14 that was like, haha, you can make money, but it's only going to be $14.
Yeah, $14. Is that like a book or like,
yeah, it was like a checklist or something.
Okay.
Oh no, it was like 2 $7 products.
Okay. No, I know how online business is, right? You can have all these low-end products. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah. So I was just like, what? I was like, fine, I will do it. I was like really mad at like the universe.
Yeah.
And it's so mad and terrified. Right. But somehow I had managed to muster up the courage to do it. And within 3 weeks of sending out that email campaign, I had signed on 3 new clients and had made over $7,800 in sales, which was the most I had made in my business ever.
Yes.
At that time. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting when we can be authentic? Like authentically us.
Right.
It's really powerful.
It was mind blowing. And to be honest, like I didn't even believe it at first. I was like, this is a fluke.
Yeah.
But, and maybe you can relate to that, right? Yeah. You're like, wait, did that really work?
I'm not sure. Like, is this how it goes? Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, that was 6 years ago. And this last year I've been in transition, but from that point on, my business just continued to grow steadily. And then I was still kind of focused. I was more forthcoming with that and more forthcoming with the fact that like this type of work, especially for coaches and consultants, people who are the face of their brand, like it's going to bring up your stuff and you're going to need to heal it. But I still hadn't necessarily led with that. And so this past year of transition with working, really studying transformation, going through my own transformation. Now I really work with my clients to own their stories for good so that they can really authentically step out, be visible, be fully themselves, and speak their truth.
Yeah. It's just freedom to be able to speak your truth. Don't you agree? Like, did you feel a sense of freedom after you sent that?
Oh my God.
Like nothing bad happened. I sent the email.
Yeah, nothing, not only did nothing bad happen, right? It didn't kill me.
Right.
But really great things happened.
Yeah.
Really great things opened
Interesting.
up. Yeah. And it was a huge sense of relief.
Yeah. And there's the stuff in human design where I think of it as attraction marketing in a way, because it's like there's a spot, like I would be curious, and I don't remember where your moon is, right? Where your moon is in your human design chart might be really fascinating in the story that you just told, because it's like where we need to be nurtured is what also where our clients, like we can feel empathetic towards them in that way, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd be curious, but it's like, even if you don't realize what that stuff is, people come to you because somehow they feel that
They
there's
just feel
something.
it.
Yes, there's an
Yeah.
energetic click there, which I just think that's so fascinating that there's this energetic click that sometimes we don't even know what the energetic click is.
Yeah.
Right. I just love that. Thank you for sharing that story. I mean, yeah, it's just like that's it reminded me as you were talking, like that story I have too about losing my son. All of a sudden when you open up about that, all of a sudden everybody's telling you all their stuff, like
Right.
you don't even ask, but they're somehow they just feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Absolutely.
And they'll tell you all the things. And yeah, I don't know how many times I've had people just who end up in the same groups I'm in that have had the same experience as me. It has happened so many times. And we're always like, what? Like, that's weird, but maybe not. Maybe it's not weird. You know, it's how like,
Yeah, no, I mean, so just to put my marketing hat on here for a minute, like there's a reason why people say use story so that you
yeah,
can connect with your audience, right? Like it is
for
that know,
sure.
like, and trust factor. And also it really truly has to be authentic, because
Yeah.
people are really good at knowing the difference between you telling a story in order to get them to buy something, and knowing that you're telling a story to share yourself with them.
Yeah, there's that bullshit detector a lot of
Right.
us have.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't sound, yeah, that doesn't even sound good. You know, there's something energetically off about it, you know,
Right.
when you can really detect that. Yeah, I get that. So now what you're doing, what are you transitioning to then? You used, like, the story stylist was one part. I know that that's what you called yourself, maybe.
Yeah.
Story
Yeah.
stylist.
And I'll be changing that name
Yeah.
soon, because I am changing,
Yeah.
sort of.
Okay.
I mean,
Just curious. What's the new thing?
the marketing and visibility is always going to
Okay.
be a piece of
Yes.
my work. I just can't not stop myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but so maybe this has happened to you, maybe this has happened to some of your listeners, but you know, when you have like this desire, this pull to show up fully in your message, and it comes that time where you have to get your face and your voice out there, and suddenly you're like, oh, you put on the brakes. Kind of like in my story where that I just shared, it was like, I know what I need to do, but I really don't want to do it. And so you don't book the speaking gigs, you don't do interviews like this. Maybe you're writing a book and you're procrastinating, you know, whatever it is that you are working on to make yourself visible. Well, what was true in my own experience, and what I found to be true with my clients, is that when this shows up, it's typically the result of a visibility wound, or what I call a wounded heart, which, you know, that was the case for me. I was very emotionally shut down. I had built up all these walls around my heart. And so I work with entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, specifically who have a big mission focused on guiding humanity into this new awakened and conscious world. And most of them would also consider themselves, they're already successful.
Yeah.
And yet every time they up level their business, like the stuff comes up, right? And so many of them would refer to themselves as light workers or healers or star seeds, twin flames. And most often, my clients in particular, but I've actually studied this too, and I've read about this. Most light workers and star seeds and twin flames in particular have experienced really difficult childhoods. And that is the root of their visibility wounds. And it manifests as an emotional and energetic block, definitely in their heart chakra, often in their throat chakra. If they've had some sort of life-threatening trauma, or if they've had abuse, oftentimes that manifests in their root in their sacral chakra as well. Yeah. And so you could have the best marketing strategy and the greatest message in the world, but if that energy isn't flowing and it's blocked and you've got these wounds, like that's always going to come in and override it. And so I guide my clients through the inner work and the self-healing so that they can shift and release those wounds first. Yeah. And then we work on the visibility piece. And that's where my clients are able to draw upon my 25 years of messaging and branding and positioning.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And it sounds like, like you even have like a different energy about when you talk about that versus, even though you enjoyed your job and even the stuff you were doing before, this just felt deeper somehow when you started talking about this new work. So yeah, it's very much needed. Right. And I love, like you were talking about the chakras, and of course that always takes me back to human design. Like, oh yeah, there's the centers. And like, I was thinking about the heart center when you were talking about the heart, and I'm thinking about the throat and the root. And I was just kind of like connecting them all together as you were talking, like, oh, how would that be? Yeah. But because I got there in my head, I'm just curious, like when you learned that you were an emotional manifesting generator, like both of us are emotional manifesting generators, but how did that help you like in your life and your business? Like what happened?
Oh my gosh, this was a huge game changer for me, because I had actually gotten my free chart a couple of years ago, and it was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, but it didn't sink in.
Yeah.
And so I started to understand it a little bit better in our mastery group. And then you really helped me understand it on an even deeper level. But for me, the emotional piece for me, when you had said, I think it was in our first conversation, you were talking about, or maybe it was in one of our calls. I don't remember, but this was before we did our session together on my chart. You had said something like, I need to take 24 hours before making a decision. And I was like, ooh, what's that about? Like my spidey senses went up, and I was like, oh, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Because what would happen for me is that when something was a yes, I knew it was a yes, and there was no hesitation. And when something was a no, I knew it was a no, and there was no hesitation. And I didn't have problems saying no. I know for some people it's hard for them to say no, but if I knew in my body it was a no, then I would just say no thanks. Yeah. It was the maybe that would trip me up, because, and I think that it's not just my emotional authority. You can correct me on this, but I think it's that line 1 or line 3 that plays into it. Because I'm curious. Like I like to learn things. I like to experience things.
The 1 is research. It could be, so that's the 1 too, that the 1 plays into it. You're right. Like you want more information sometimes, right? You need, it gives us space as emotional authorities. It gives us the space to find out more.
Yeah. So the maybes would often be like a yes at first, and then it would be time to actually show up for that yes, and I'd be like, I really don't want to do this now. It wasn't every time.
Yes, that's that emotional wave, right? You're in the high, like and the next morning you wake up, you're like, why did I say
yes? Right.
I've had that same experience.
So just having knowing like, oh, it's okay for me to just say, you know what, I need to think about that, or I need to tune into that. And I did that recently too. I was like, you know what, this sounds like I had an invitation to collaborate with someone, and I was like, this sounds like a great idea. It sounds really exciting. And I need to think about it.
Yeah.
And it was a no.
I need to feel into it. Like I often say, because we are very emotional beings, those of us with the emotional center, right? It's like, I need to really feel into it. Does it feel right? I use that even in my head. Like, does it feel good to me? Right. And I know I'm not give you an answer at the moment, like right now. But then I continue to ask myself, like, how does it feel today? Today, because it feels different depending on where you are in that emotional wave. It's really a fascinating study in emotions and how they work, because I can be all into it that day one. I could be, woohoo, I'm going to like invest $5,000 in this retreat and go to Bali. And then the next day I'm like, oh my gosh, how much time is it going to take to travel? Right. And now you start like thinking, right. You let your total emotions like,
that's exactly where my brain would go to.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? It sounded good at the time.
I mean, that's my most recent decision through my emotional wave was, do I want to go on this retreat in Bali? And it ended up being a no. Like, who would say, why didn't, of course, everybody would think this is a great idea, but it just me riding out my wave. It wasn't for me at the time. I'm like, maybe some other time, but right. Like I've allowed myself now to lean into my own knowing, which is really new for me. I mean, newer in my life. That wasn't a thing before, but now it is like, this is a new thing to lean into. What do you really want? And I feel like our emotional wave is really wise. Our emotions are wise. And if we would lean into them, and allow them to give us clues, it can be really great. Because then even while you're waiting it out, if the person you're waiting it out with is impatient, it's probably just not the right timing. Like sometimes that's how the decision gets made. It's like, if you're going to pressure me, I just can't do it. It's not going to work out, and I love that. Like, I'm like, the right opportunities will show up. So thank you for that little short discussion about our emotional wave, because I love it. But tell us, like, where can people find you if they're interested in your program or what you're up to?
Yeah. So you can find me at thestorystylist.com or GayleNowak.com, GayleNowak.com. Yeah. And I actually have a gift for your audience.
I'll put it in the show notes too, but tell us what it is.
Yeah. So it's, if you're wanting to feel more connected, if you want to be more emotionally available for your business, more open-hearted for your business, I have an assessment. It's called Talk to Your Heart, and it's a downloadable PDF with an embedded link to a guided meditation to actually help you drop into your heart. I know that probably a lot of your listeners are already kind of heart-centered anyway, but even if you've got a pretty open heart, it can be easy to get up in your head with the day-to-day. So, you can drop into your heart space and then go through the evaluation, which looks at several areas of your life, including your business, but how we show up in one place is how we show up in other places. And really, it's a tool to help you see what's working, what's not working, and what's most calling for transformation right now in your business, in your personal life, whatever speaks to your heart as you go through that assessment. So that's available at thestorystylist.com/beautifully-bloomed. Awesome. And then I'm on Instagram at The Story Stylist and YouTube and LinkedIn at Gayle Nowak.
Thank you. Well, this has been a really fun conversation, Gayle. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please go subscribe so that you get notified of all the future goodies that are coming along. While you're there, please leave me a review and let me know what you think. So excited to share this with you and can't wait to talk to you next time. Bye.